All right, we have the Texas dual threat now at Kentucky. Deuce Hogan, Iowa's opponent this week or this bowl season. Deuce, how are you feeling about playing Iowa?
I'm feeling good. I can't wait. I'm
That's
pretty.
Are you
You said what?
are you are you more like excited to like see the guys or just fired up to play them? Like how do you think going into that? Obviously, transferred a year ago, so
Yeah, I mean, I'm fired up for both. Like the first thing that I thought of, like when I saw that, it was like fresh in Twitter that day. Who's gonna be, and then it pops up, and then my phone starts blowing up. Kentucky, Iowa teammates, like no way. And like the first thing, like the competitor in me is like, that's awesome. Like I want to play against these guys. But then I think it was Justin Britt and Deontay Craig FaceTime me like 60 seconds after, and like the trash talking begins. And so like I love it all. Yeah, I'm excited to hug them all and maybe turn up in Nashville a little bit.
turn up, baby.
yeah,
It's sweet.
that's such a great bowl city. Were you on the team when the COVID year when it couldn't happen?
Yeah, I was actually in Peterson Hall on Zoom studying. Was it Mizzou?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was in there breaking down Mizzou on Christmas morning. It was pretty depressing. And then they all went home for Christmas. Then came back with COVID, so the bowl got canceled.
Dude. We would have smacked them too. They
Oh,
were
yeah.
really not good.
Yeah, we'd have won.
Yeah, I'm surprised. So a year ago we play. It was Iowa, Kentucky again. Were you a little surprised you drew Iowa? Was
Dude,
that floating around?
it's nuts, bro. So, like, this time last year, so I entered the portal after the Nebraska game. And I'd gone home, like, recruiting had started. I was, talking to all these schools. And then, like, super recently, like, I had been DM'd by the OC. Hey, man, give me a call. So I'd been in talks with Kentucky. And then I was before the game. I gave him a verbal commitment to Kentucky over the phone. And like 24 hours later, they got slated to play Iowa. And like I remember my stomach turning. I'm like, oh my gosh, because like I get way more nervous watching than you playing. Like I feel so out of control when I'm not on
Yeah.
the field. Like, I was sitting there like stomach turning. Oh my gosh. So I remember being in shambles watching that game because it was my best friends. Like I'm sitting there watching Cooper run out the tunnel and Higgins and like guys, Lachey, and then my future teammates. So it was like, dude, beyond conflicted watching that game. That was nuts.
Oh, dude, I'm sure. It's
That's crazy. That's like this year with the Fenway Bowl. How the Louisville coach was going to where's he going? Cincinnati, and they're on the same sideline.
It's just unreal, bro. Like, what do you do with like? I was like,
Yeah.
okay. I was game planning with these guys 6 days ago. Like, I was watching whatever the Big Ten championship. So, a couple games or the next game, 2 games after.
yeah.
Mhm.
Or no, it would have been before, right?
Yeah, it was December 4th. So
So I watched the Michigan game, and I was like sitting like on my couch calling out the formation to play call. And like, oh, I see like signaling plays and Spence is at the line calling stuff. I'm like, I know he's like, I was in there 8 days ago, like breaking
yeah,
down how. So like, it is weird, dude. It's like hard. It's a weird feeling.
oh, absolutely. It's got to be so weird, especially because like you were close with all those guys, and like Spence kind of was like a role model ish. Like he was the older guy in the room at the time, and I'm sure it's got to be weird seeing him out there, just knowing like you were one of the guys who was signaling to him, and then like now you're watching on the TV, and it's just like, am I a better signaler than that guy? Who knows?
Well, and you sit there and you're like, okay, this guy like when I watch Iowa, okay, like I'm about to play against him. I've watched him all season. I watched him last year after I left. Like, okay, Spence picked me up when I had a moped in the snow and I couldn't get to workouts on time.
Yeah.
You know, like I got these guys I had Nerf wars with these guys in Peterson Hall, and like we went to Lucan post game. Like these are friends. It's like it's so much bigger than football. So when Spence drops back, like you can't root against the guy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like the amount of hours you've put in next to that person is like that's the thing. Like everyone says it about football and like being a teammate, dude. Like it's so much bigger than like the stuff you're gonna see on Twitter.
Well, dude, the crazy part is like, so we were just talking before this. So Deuce was if you hear us mention Lucan, which you have several times, it was our house we lived in. So at one point, it was me. It was the summer going in a couple years ago. The summer, it was me, Charlie, Tori, Henry, Ivory, and then Deuce. So we had everyone in that house for like a couple months at one point because Deuce was still moving to a different house. They needed a spot to stay. And it's so weird now looking at it from the outside. And you're at Kentucky, Charlie's at Purdue. Ivory's gone, Henry's gone, and then Tori's the only one on the team still. And it's like, and he's
Still
the
at
oldest.
Lucan.
Well, Tori's the oldest one, and it's just like it's so weird. I mean, and now like Keegan and Arlen lived in there. They're both gone. I don't even know who the hell lives there anymore. I mean, Tori's the last one staying, but it's so wild to see everyone go in such different directions and do like such cool things with it. It's just it's so weird cheering for like 3 different teams at one time.
Right?
It's easy, but like it's just wild.
It's not, and it's like I can't believe that was 12 months ago, or like whatever 17 months ago, whatever it was. Like,
yeah,
different stages of life. Like guys that were all in that house spending every hour together are like spread all over the country now. It's nuts.
Yeah, it's nuts, dude. But hey, you gotta do what you gotta do. You gotta find the right fit, and obviously you found it, so that's sweet.
I think I did. I love it here.
Yeah. Little taste of home.
Kentucky. So when you first came, did Stoops give you any of the rundown or any of the Iowa love? He's a former Hawkeye.
Yeah, no, just talk. We had like an immediate bonding point over the culture there and the people there, and like, heck, I was there coming out of high school. Like, I mean, those are formative years you spend in a city a long way from home. Like, you kind of become a man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've told people that I feel like Iowa kind of got like a boy.
Yeah.
And I was like a man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, all of a sudden, 20s, and I pay my own rent, and I, like pay for these just like little stuff. So like, for me and Coach Stoops to both spend formative years there, like I think that was definitely a point of bonding. And then like little stuff, like I remember what week it was this season, but we were in practice and it dropped 20 degrees in like 2 hours. So it goes from like 50 all of a sudden to the 30s. The wind is blowing, and we're in warm-ups. I say, Coach Stoops, like, this feels like Iowa City, and we both bust out laughing. He's like, no, it's not that bad, but like little stuff that like we can both relate to.
Yeah, that's dope. Okay, so going from Iowa to Kentucky, what's the quarterback room look like once you get there compared to Iowa?
Yeah, so obviously Will Levis was our guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That I wasn't coming in expecting to start. Now, when I did commit, we didn't know if he was declaring for the draft or not, but the assumption was he's coming back for another year, and I had to walk on. And being really highly touted out of high school, that was different, and but it was cool. Like, it was kind of, I had lots of opportunities to play elsewhere at smaller schools.
Yeah.
But the way I left Iowa, I didn't feel like it was one of those things where I left because I couldn't play at that level. It was under different circumstances. So for me, I was like, if the SEC calls and give you an opportunity, take it, right? So they said, if you earn the backup job, we'll put you on full scholarship. So I walked on and was in a room with me, Will, a guy named Kaya, and a guy named Bo. And within 5 or 6 months, I earned a scholarship. And Kaya's in the class below me, Bo was in my class, and he transferred out. And then we've recently got in a new young guy named Destin. So it's also a weird thing because I'm now the second oldest in the room.
Oh, that's wild.
Which it changes really fast. Like, I was sitting there under Alex and under Spence, and like, everything that I was experienced, they had gone through 12 months earlier, or 24 months earlier. And like, now, like, I mean, here's an example, like picking up for workouts, like Spence did that for me. And so I get to Kentucky, and the young guy shows up. He's like, hey man, like, can I get a ride to the meetings? Or I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it was just a different dynamic. Like, I'll tell this story. Like, one time I'll never forget. I mean, I had been in Iowa for probably 6 or 7 months, and like, you're 16 hours from home, from girl, from family. You're not playing. It's cold outside, and I was just beat down. I was in the quarterback room, and like, I just literally had my hands like this, and no one was in there. And Spence walked in, and he just peeked his head in the room. I don't know how he knew I was in there. He was just like, "Hey, buddy, like, it's gonna get better. Like, it's part of it, and
get
better." Like, you talk about, what that does for like a kid that feels like he's so far out of his realm, and then fast forward a couple months later, I'm looking at a freshman that just threw a pick. I'm like, hey, bud, like it's gonna be all right. You know what I'm saying? Right.
How tides can turn like that.
Nuts. It happens quick, dude.
Yeah, definitely.
It is true because you and Spence kind of came from like opposite ends of the country to get all the way to Iowa.
Right. And both very like family oriented. And we were the guy at our high school, and you just come in, and you're like, all of a sudden you're like a small fish in a big pond. You know what I'm saying? And like it changes, dude. But there definitely is, and I can't say when the point is. I don't know how to like put my finger on it, but there is a point where like it clicks.
Yeah.
Okay, like it's like the umbilical cord's cut. I'm my own man. Like, so even for me, like I mean, I think Iowa City is only 30 minutes farther from my hometown than Lexington is.
Oh wow.
Still far from home, but it's a different world. It's like I got it now.
Yeah. Yeah. College, dude, it's a hard adjustment, especially college football. Like, I remember coming in like as a freshman, and coaches hated me. I had long hair. Everyone thought I was just a slack off. I never lifted a weight in high school. There's a lot of stuff that happened where like they didn't think I was a what?
Besides when Doctorman came.
Yeah. Yeah, but that was in high school though. Like that video wasn't really discovered until like sophomore year of college. But
yeah, you were still pumping weights.
Yeah, that was the hardest I lifted in my life, and that was just because the media was there. That's why my voice cried so many times in the video.
That's awesome,
dude. But yeah, like freshman year, I remember like I'd call my mom crying. I'd be like, "This sucks." Like, I never had a disciplined like regimen in my life ever, and it just like it was such a different world.
Yeah.
And then like sophomore year, you start getting the hang of it, and then like for me, it was like junior year. Once you like realize that you have to be committed to football and like that's it, like once you like realize like this is it, like I'm here for football and I will do whatever it takes to like get on the field.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you said, everything clicks. And then once everything clicks, everything else becomes more fun. Like the social life, even going to class, like you meet people that are outside of football. And it's just like, it's cool having a social life that's different than just being in the facility. But like once it clicks, like everything starts falling in place, and it's just so much more fun. And like you're right, you feel like you transition from like being a immature kid to like an immature adult.
Right?
It's wild, dude.
And like the switches from like, oh, I'm far from home, I'm away from my family and my friends.
Yeah.
To I live with my best friends.
Exactly.
Like
exactly.
It's little things, dude. It takes 4 or 5 nights hanging out with guys, sitting there watching games. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is my crew now. Like,
exactly.
like lean on it. Like even little stuff, bro. Like going home changes because like all your high school boys are in, they're on different campuses. They're spread out now.
Oh yeah.
Like I found myself going to Texas, and even since I've been to Lexington, bro, like I've gone to Texas and been like, man, I can't. I'm like itching to get back. I got like 10 buddies sitting there waiting on me. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, and I'm telling you right now, because you're like being in college, the ability, I was just talking with someone about this. This sounds so washed up and old of me to say, but like the ability to be able to like walk over to your friend's house, drive over to your friend's house, and just like watch TV and hang out is the coolest thing ever. And like once you leave college and you don't have that ability, all my boys are either still at Iowa or in Texas and freaking back home in Illinois and Wisconsin. Like it sucks. And like you said, going home, like it's awesome to see everyone in high school, but like everyone from high school either stays in the same area and meets new people and they become friends with them, and you kind of lose touch, which sucks. But like that's just how it goes. And like when you go to a place, especially that's like so far from home, you have to bond with people, or it's just not going to work. And when you bond with people, it becomes home. So when you go home, it's like, am I really home? Like my parents are here. That's the best part. But like friend wise, everything else wise, environment, like doesn't feel like home anymore.
No, everything changes. And bro, like I actually heard a coach say, he referenced like trauma bonding, like trauma bonds, like when people go through something.
So true.
Dude, like you move away from home and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and drive through a blizzard on a moped for 3 months with people, and you suffer through the same lift and you run the same runs. And like, bro, like it doesn't matter if you're from like, Northern California and South Florida, like you're going to get along. Like, like you hate to compare it to war because what we do is a game, but like you're going through stuff, bro. Like the relationships build really fast.
It's so like I was actually just thinking about that. How like even people you're not close with. Like if I, like for example, if I saw some guy on the team that like I wasn't close with, like I know him, I'd say what's up to him. You still have that bond and there's still a connection. When you see him, it feels like you are still really good friends with them because you went through some shit. Like summer workouts, like game sims, dude. Like doesn't matter if you're not friends with someone. In that moment, like you're boys, like you are brothers, and it doesn't change.
And
like,
there's a level of respect.
Yeah, dude.
Like, okay, I do stuff on a daily basis that most people wouldn't make it through.
Yeah.
Whether or not I know this cat really well or not, like there's a respect level.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that dude builds something.
Yeah, and like when you have someone you're not close with, like you can hear them pointing your name out, saying like, "Let's go, you got this." It's a different feeling.
Yeah.
Because like you just never expected that. When you're in that situation, that's like the only thing you do expect is someone that you're not close with or you are close with saying like, "Let's go." Like you're picking everyone up and everyone's picking you up. It's so sweet.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. Saying, what did you say? Game sims.
Oh,
dude, I have like PTSD, man. I didn't finish one without like barfing my inside. I remember vividly, dude. It was my first game sim, bro. And we were like 3.5 quarters through, bro. And I was puking so hard, like I would be on the line, I would puke everywhere. The whistle would blow, I would take off. I'm like, it was disgusting. And eventually, like Cammy's coming up to me and like they're like pouring water on my head. There's like ambulances on the field picking up teammates. I remember like we're in the huddle, or no, it was after. It was the next day, and we're getting dinner. And Coach Ferris comes to me. He's like, "Hey, bud, like, ooh, like, I felt bad for you yesterday." Watch. I was like, "Yeah, Coach, that was brutal, dude."
Dude, it is. Those are. I mean, they're different.
Sounds like a battle scene.
Yeah, I'm serious. You've never seen a scene like people after that run. Like it's people were like on the ground like yelling.
It was 100%. We did not do a game sim in my 2 years at Iowa where there was not ambulances there.
Yeah.
People would get thrown in the cold tub to like regenerate them and bam to the hospital everywhere. It was nuts, dude.
It was like when we were freshmen, we had and it also depended on the weather because it is what I will say one thing, Iowa is unexpectedly hot as fuck in the summer. And it's also extremely humid. And like on the field, on the turf, it could be like a 95-degree day out. It's instantly like 110 with the turf. Mm-hmm. And when you're running on that with the sun being on you, it is a mental challenge that I don't even know how to explain to you to mentally like be able to talk to yourself and be like, okay, like you got to make it through. Like it's hard as shit. And like I've never worked out where I thought I was going to like throw up or like pass out. Game sims, I was seeing like black spots, and I'm like, dude, this is not good.
Well, like little stuff like that, the workout, like your feet burn. Like,
yes,
I'm not even talking about like my muscles hurting or like my feeling like I'm trying to catch air, dude. Like you can't stand still. Like your feet have to keep moving or you get cooked. Like, yeah, bro, it's so bad.
Dude, I mean, we used to. Like, because there's ice buckets, there's water bottles, everything on the sidelines. We would take it. I remember like freshman year, by this like the start of it, everyone's like wearing like shirts, like shorts, like just the usual. And then like by 3/4 in, shirts were off. Everyone was just in compression shorts. Like your shoes, you were spraying water on your shoes because your feet were so hot. And like when you run, you could feel puddles in your feet, and you could hear like when people were running, it felt like there was like puddles in the field because it was like. It was just so whack, dude. Like,
bro, I remember like peak COVID. We're like, somebody had an inhaler. Okay, bro. We're like, pass. Bro. We're like it's like the most. Like, it's like a super spreader event, bro. We're all dying and like passing around the inhaler.
It's dude. And it would be like, I remember the days where you like lead up to like game sims. It was like that's like the biggest one we had for us. Just like it'd be like there'd be 3 game sims, and like it's hard to explain it without getting into really big detail. But like the first one, honestly, like, it was less than the last one, but the first one was always the hardest because you just weren't used to it. And if you walked outside and it was like cloudy, everyone would be in the greatest mood you've ever seen because
you just didn't want the sun on you.
With the sun, and like it would be it's crazy how much easier it was when that happened. It was. I mean, like the trauma shit that Deuce is talking about, like trauma bonding, that is trauma bonding to the max.
It's like SEAL training, bro.
Yeah, dude. Like I feel like I was in Hell Week. That's
Brutal.
It's crazy. But yeah, no, it's wild to think about that. I'm sure. So do you like what was the hardest conditioning thing you had to do Kentucky wise?
So we actually have at the ends of our so we have a indoor facility, and then we have two outdoor practice fields.
Okay.
Gated, and on the side behind the end zones, like built into the gates, is a turf hill, one super steep. Okay, a bigger turf hill, one's next to it, and then in between the two turf hills is concrete steps, and
Ooh.
like 2.5, 3 feet per step, and you go up. I mean, they're probably, if I had to guess, like they're probably 70 yards, maybe 65 going uphill.
Yeah.
We would running up the hills, and you walk down one hill, up the hill, down the hill. That circuits were brutal. We had to 2-foot jump up the steps for 70 yards. Go down the hill, bro. Like that was pretty bad. It was different though. It was like there's a big difference in the way we like lift and train here. Like I there was like a strength part, and then like an explosive part, and then like a conditioning part kind of.
Yeah.
Here it's all like we're in and out of the weight room. Like, I mean, we'll go in there and like bust a squat workout, but we're in and out within 45 minutes. And then it's like, fast twitch days. And yeah, it's way shorter here, which is nice.
Are guys going back? Like, are they allowed to go back in the weight room and like do an extra workout if they wanted to?
Yeah. Weight room's open every day till like, whatever, late afternoon. Whole staff's in there. And the weight room's like, there's always music playing. There's always people in there.
Yeah.
But another thing, like this is a thing about Coach Stoops. Like he sits you down and this is wisdom, dude. This is why he's taking a program that was perennially struggling and them to 10 wins all the time. He sits down and looks at these guys from all walks of life and says, listen, I don't want to turn the college football facility is supposed to be a place where you chase your dream with all your best friends. I don't want to make it a place that you resent.
Yeah.
So we're not going to put you in the weight room for 2.5 hours. We're not going to sit you in the meeting room for 2.5 hours. It's get in, get your work, and get out. And the great ones want extra.
Yeah.
Dude, that is the culture here. And it's like I kind of got goosebumps talking about it because when the people are there, it's by choice.
Yeah.
By, the receivers room, the linebacker room, the DB room, the running back. When I walk by those and everyone's in there with a clicker watching tape, I'm like, yeah, that's by choice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm. Oh yeah. That's hype. That's cool. That's the difference. So for like at Iowa, like our weightlifting was like pretty intense. Like it wasn't a lot of, there would be days we'd be in and out, depending on what we had, but it was more I'm sure it's different at Kentucky where do they do like position based lifting? Mm-hmm. Like some people, yeah. So like at Iowa, Deuce knows this. Like obviously he went through it. Quarterbacks had to do the same thing as like a lineman, just different weights. Like it's just everyone did the exact same thing. Like it was never even kickers and punters. Like Torrey's pretty strong because he goes through everything. Like it's just
we're in a game week and Torrey's the best kicker in America, and he's like hang cleaning on a Wednesday.
Yeah. It's like no one really had a day off. And the quarterbacks would have some times where like they would be like they'd have something small.
Yeah, we might like shoulder press before practice or something. But like that, dude, that's a thing. That's another thing that like, okay, like there's multiple different ways to be successful in college football.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, Iowa is who Iowa is because of the way that they work. You know, bringing these guys, if they're not getting the most highly touted guys from every state. No, bro, they're gonna come in and they're gonna like bring you in and like build a monster. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, and it is different, like culturally here. Like you're gonna get guys that are like they are very highly touted, and saying, "Hey, you're gonna squat on Thursday," is not the best for the team morale. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just head coaches in college football to me are people managers. They're like the most valuable thing you can do as a college football coach is be great relationally. That's why he's been where he's at for 25 years.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just like being great relationally, and there's different ways to go about it. But like, yeah, there's definitely multiple avenues to success. But I mean, by saying that Kentucky's great, no, Iowa's awesome, dude. They have the best strength conditioning program arguably in the nation.
Yeah. And like you said, that's the cool part about college football is like every school does it differently, and it really is just a matter of who can do what they do the best.
That's
And
that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
whoever dominates it is the one who dominates college football that year. Granted,
Mm-hmm.
there is some schools that will get talent where it's like doesn't really matter. They're going to but yeah, I mean it's cool. Okay, so how about you grew up wanting to be in the SEC since you were a
Who'd you
kid.
grow up a fan of?
So both my parents graduated from small colleges. So growing up, I rooted for coaches I liked and quarterbacks I liked. So like I loved Tebow. So like there was a time,
Mhm.
Dude.
2007, 8, 9 era ish. Like
Yeah.
I was, and then like I prime college football to me, like Colt McCoy at Texas and like Sam Bradford at OU and like Texas school. Like how do you live in Texas and not root for like Johnny Football, right?
Yep.
Like
The
so I
goat.
coach to coach, player to player, and yeah, and all those teams usually were in the South just because that was home, right, and that was where we could get to a game. Uh, but yeah, I don't think I grew up like kind of rooting for a specific team as much as I did like chasing quarterbacks. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely.
TCU had some good ones too.
Yeah, dude. Like what was it like 14?
Dalton.
Like well, before that, Andy Dalton, and then like Trevon Boykin came in, and like
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Guy
forgot Boykin.
Miller's been good, dude. RG3 was there,
Mhm.
and like I think another thing, stadium environments. Like you kind of fall in love with what you get to experience. You know, like I had no comparison. So I remember going to A&M games, and it's like 110,000 people in sync for
Yeah,
3. Okay, that's electric. That's something you want to be a part of.
different. Were you ever a Baylor fan?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's McLean in Waco. Yeah, we were in
Yep.
Waco. Like it's a couple hours from where I grew up, and we always had the state track meet there, and then I got offered by Baylor, so obviously I became like,
Yeah.
really started tuning into their games.
Yeah.
Was on, and it's a local thing. That's another thing. Like, I don't get every college football game or NFL game here, like which
Yeah.
like
Right.
I don't get every Cowboys game here, which is like
Yep.
nuts. But like, I am now learning that part of my taste was built by like what I could watch, what I could get my hands on.
Oh yeah,
Mhm.
definitely.
Yeah. What brought you out of Texas originally?
Man, I went to Iowa for a lot of reasons. Obviously, love the pro style offense and the fact they're an NFL factory. That's desirable, right? Um, I was the only kid in the country in my class that they offered at the quarterback position, and that was a super cool thing. I came out of it was after my sophomore season, and the offers started rolling in, and I committed to Iowa before my junior year, so I was the first commit in the class. And then I was actually, I think it was before I committed. It had to have been before I committed. I was at A&M, and I was sitting in Coach Fisher's office, and we were talking, and I said, what would be your piece of advice? Like, I'm 16, 17, trying to make this decision. And he was like, go where you're the most desired. Like, because your window of opportunity will be the biggest. So
Yeah.
I got offered by Georgia, but they also offered, 13 other quarterbacks in my class. It was like
Mhm.
catch, where I felt like Iowa was like, they were pulling me out of chemistry class. Like, hey man, like Coach Woods walking around the school with Coach O'Keefe, and like, yes, pro style offense, NFL factory, and like the level of like relationship I felt there.
That would be crazy. You got coaches coming down to Texas. Just hey,
I'll
the
never
second period going.
seriously, I'll never forget. I've told this story actually recently. I went to a Georgia camp my freshman year, and I was, go out there. They give us like these Georgia helmets. I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, there was no chance they were going to offer that day, but they had like a number 2 jersey. I'm like, yep, like I'm in. And we go out on the field and we're all throwing. And I think it was Jacob Eason at the time was their quarterback.
Oh yeah.
And anyway, he walks out and he's like dapping everybody up. I'm like, this is so awesome. Well, they didn't offer, and of course, 15-year-old Deuce is like down to the dumps. Like, I'm like, and after it was my junior year, so 36 months later, Jim Chaney, who was at Georgia at the time, knocks on my door. I'm in chemistry class. He like peeks his head in my class. I'm like, oh my gosh! I walk out. He's wearing straight Tennessee gear, Tennessee hat, Tennessee shirt. He's like, you remember me? I'm like, yes, sir. Coach Chaney, what's up? And he's like, yeah, and he pulls out this film, and it's me throwing at Georgia when I was a freshman, as like a little kid. He said, we just make sure you fill out and, continue to progress. So we're going to offer you to Tennessee. So I was like, okay. So he offers me standing in my high school hallway. The next day, I was I think I was in lunch. My dad calls me and says, hey, my dad was the head football coach at my school. He's, hey, buddy, come to the front office. I walk in, there's the whole Georgia staff. And they're like, hey, if you're good enough for Coach Chaney, like, you can play for us. We're going to give you an offer to play at Georgia. And so then that got a whole nother.
That's wild, dude.
That is nuts.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts, dude.
That's so cool. Like the recruiting's a tough process, and I can't imagine how it was for you because you had like so many offers. But like the fact that like you can get one offer in like one conference, and every school in that conference will like look at you after that.
Well,
so
I got offered by LA Tech.
Yeah.
Tim Rattay, and I'm forever grateful for that. I cried right when he pulled out of the parking lot. Me and my dad just like hugged and cried because
Yeah.
The next day Oklahoma State offered.
Damn.
And they had been there the same day to watch me throw. And, they were like, give us your card. They made us call them because that was the rule at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, LA Tech offered, Oklahoma State offered, and then it's like snowball. It just blows up.
That is sweet, dude. That's so
All right, you're the first Texan that we've had on. I want to ask about high school football there.
Okay.
Because it is you see some of the high school stadiums, Allen, McKinney now, they just built a new one. So,
right.
Crazy high school stadiums. Like what's it like being in hometowns there? Because it is just nuts with Texas high school football.
Yeah, so I think that there's a broad spectrum. I think that there's the Allens, the McKinneys, the North Shores, there's tons of them everywhere. There's a lot of people in Texas, right? So you got a high school with 5,000 kids, you're going to be able to find 11. You know what I'm saying? 11 roll. So there's that spectrum, and then rewind or go to the opposite of the spectrum, and there's hometown Texas football, and it's a small town. And golly, I got goosebumps talking about it. So I played smaller football. I played Grapevine at the private school. My dad was the head coach there for 18 years or something. And Texas football, dude, on Thursdays I would go to the Main Street barbershop, get my hair cut, talk to the barber about the game. You walk out and there's the Main Street Theater that's been there since, it has to be the 50s or 60s. And it says, Grapevine Faith, my high school, hosting the Friday, 7:30, be there. It says it on the outside of the theater, right? And dude, I just got I got goosebumps. I remember going Friday, by fifth period, almost everyone's let out of school. The band's prepping, everyone's in jerseys, cheerleaders are wearing their costumes. It's just electric, dude. And it's a religion there. You got people that have been watching Texas high school football for, 55 years. And they'll come to your game, and it's just, dude, it's hard to explain, but it's like a religion there.
I can't imagine Texas, because Wisconsin is not a big football state at all, and Texas is the videos are insane, everything's insane, and we used to get goosebumps going to our games. Yours is an actual college game in high school, and dude, I tell everyone this all the time, college football is fucking sweet. It is electric. It is a feeling that you can't describe when you're on the field, in front of 70,000 people.
Right.
But the feeling you had making a play in high school football and going to school the next day, or if you're in a small town, everyone knew. Every single person knew. High school football, it was the most fun I've ever experienced having football in my life. And I think that's the same for almost everyone else who played high school football.
Right. It's another thing. Okay, you are, where I come from, our mascot was the Lions. Okay. So also a small school. So on Friday nights when I'm a junior and senior, I'm playing beside guys that I was in the second and third grade with.
Yeah.
And we grew up in what was called the Cub Club. Okay. So you were a Cub until you made the varsity. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And we couldn't always when you I think it was in junior high, you couldn't get the Lion sticker on your helmet until the varsity. It's you almost grow up idolizing these guys.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden when it's it's a Thursday and you're watching the JV games with your varsity jersey on, and like you're watching the 7th and 8th graders play, and you're like, yeah, I'm not playing tonight, like just a different feeling, bro. Like
It is.
I remember my freshman year. It was before my freshman year, my 8th grade year. We had a quarterback that was going to be a senior. He transfers out, and or I guess he transferred out my 7th grade year, and he ended up going to play at San Diego State. Good player. And then we got in a guy that was a senior my 8th grade year. And after the senior, like the spot was going to be open. So my dad was like, hey, look, dude, like if you think you have any chance playing varsity next year, like you don't. Like you're going to have to you're not going to be able to hoop. You're going to have to put on 25 pounds of muscle. Like, it's going to be a uphill battle. So anyway, I didn't play basketball, and I ended up getting a starting spot my freshman year. I'll never forget, dude, like 8th grade, I'm like 6'2". I'm like bigger than everybody. And it was my first pass attempts as a varsity starter. It was week 1. We're playing a school from Austin. And I roll out to my right, dude, and here comes someone off the edge. And I just try to give him the stiff arm like I did in junior high. Like, yeah, I can still stiff arm, dude. He grabs my forearm and like 360s me, bro, into the side. I was like, oh, Fridays. Like, we're playing on Fridays. This is not junior high anymore.
Oh, yeah, dude. That is, yeah, dude, that is.
Did you guys have it where you dedicate like a whole period to either weightlifting or practice?
Second period athletics.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yes, we have an athletic period and then after school practice.
Wait, so so explain that. What is that?
So, well, it depends on the time of year. So, second period athletics in off season, and it was just known as off season. It wasn't second period. It wasn't athletics. It was welcome to off season.
Yeah.
There was no dress code. You didn't have to wear, faith issued stuff. Nah, you just showed up in whatever you were going to stay warm in. And we started every day by running a 400 around the track. And if you didn't make it in time, we ran it again as a team. So the big guys would go first, all the O-line and D-linemen, and then the skill would chase. And we called it whatever we call it. Cat and mouse. So the line mouse chasing. And then, dude, it was tire flipping and mat drills, bro, like bear crawling and diving on the ground just to, like, say you did it. And, like, dude, it was a lifestyle. Like, it was just, like, you're 16, 17 years old. And, like, what do you get committed to? Like, what do you put all your time and energy into at 16 and 17 besides, like, Call of Duty?
Yeah.
Like, I think every man has an internal desire to be a part of something that's bigger than him.
Yeah.
100%. And, like, 17 years old, you're like, okay, I can get on the same mission with 25 guys to go try to beat those suckers that live 20 minutes away from me in front of a couple thousand people. Yeah, I'm in on it.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck, that fires me up. Football is so fun, dude.
Coop, it's crazy though. Imagine like us, like Texas does it different, but imagine us like going to first period, like chemistry class, and then second period you're going to practice, and then that's just your first practice of the day. You still have to go after school.
Like we had the way we did it, we would have we called it weight flex, and our head football coach, who not just became, I think he's been there for a little bit, but he's like the all-time winningest head coach in Wisconsin football history. Like, he's the fucking man. He's been coached for like 47 years. The GOAT. I still talk to him every once in a while to this day, but like he's like the guy who's in charge of weight flex, and all it is just lifting weights. Dude, when I tell you, like, this is the difference between Texas football and like Wisconsin football. You guys are flipping tires, doing like 400s and all this shit. No one lifted a single weight in that class. If you're on the football team, especially, we would, like, when we'd have like max out weeks, our coach, he'd be sitting there. I remember people would be shitting their pants doing this. He'd be sitting there writing down everyone's max. He'd be like, Coop. And like, you'd have to like on the spot say it. If you hesitated, he knew you're lying. So like everyone would be like sitting there and everyone had a number in their head. So we do like a push-up, sit-up test. And he'd be like, Coop, what'd you get? I'd be like 42, 32. And he'd be like, okay. And like if someone was like, and then like someone would be like 42, and you're like, you're lying? And then like they'd panic. And he's like, see me after class. Like, it was like you had to be on your shit. So everyone like on the football team knew that. So everyone would be like, yeah, 52, 33. And like he'd be like, okay. And like he'd just write it down. It's the easiest. Like, I mean, dude, we would do, and then it was whack. Like we would be doing push-ups, and he would try and watch all of us. He'd go up and down the line. And when he'd go up, I swear to God, everyone, as soon as he's walking away, everyone would just sit there and lay there and look at him. We'd be like 3, 4, and then you get back up and be like 5. And like we did not do anything. But like at the granted, like once we became juniors and seniors, then we'd be doing extra stuff. Like, we'd actually give a shit.
Right.
Like, I mean, we would do some just like bullshit.
Well,
Like,
this is
we're not
like
pumping tires. We're not doing any of that stuff.
well, here was our deal too. Like, where in Texas, especially at our school, and with my dad running the program, like, if you didn't want to be there, we didn't put you there.
Yeah,
and that was built, and it had been built for 15 years. So like, if you were the freshman that like was messing around, like, dude, like even other freshmen were calling you out, and it was like, and like here's another thing. Okay, like I played private school ball, and in Texas it's kind of reversed. A lot of states around the country, the private schools dominate because they can recruit and all this kind of stuff. And the public school, you're kind of subject to where you live. Well, it's kind of opposite in Texas because you can't recruit, and the public schools have 5,000 kids in them. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm graduating class of like 90 something.
Yeah.
Well, we would schedule public schools. Season.
Yeah.
We were playing in our district in the playoffs. Okay, so we would be in off season. It was mandatory summer workouts. It's called Lion Power. It was 3 times a week. It doesn't matter if you were on family vacation. Like, you were expected to show up, and if you weren't going to show up, let everybody know.
Yeah.
And we would have the coaches in our ear saying, "Hey, listen, you're about to go to Caddo Mills, and y'all might have 300 fans travel, and there's going to be 6,000 people there, and they got way more people than you, and they're better than you."
Yeah.
Like, all of a sudden, it's like, as people that from the outside looking in are like, "Whoa, chill out," it's high school football. But like in our culture, dude, it was like, I'm not gonna let those jokers beat me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, dude. Like when you're in high school, like, if you're dedicated to it, that means the fucking world, dude. Even guys that didn't play, like we'd have kids, like that was their life. Like after high school football, like that was it. They're never gonna play football again. They knew they weren't, but like they would do anything for that team just because that was it. Like we did the same thing. We were a school of 580. My graduating class was like 170. That was like one of the biggest classes we've had in a while. And we were I don't think you guys, is it like 8A is the biggest down there?
6A. But
6A.
we have 1 through 6A public, and then separately 1 through 5A private.
So we literally just did 1 through 7, division 1 through 7, and 1 was the biggest. There was no A's, nothing. And we were D3. And in our regular season, we were in the best conference in the state. Every school is 5,000, 4,000, 5,000. Like that was all D1s. We played all D1 schools, and we like 1 or 2 D2 schools. And like my senior year, we went undefeated in the regular season. And then you drop down to D3 in playoffs, and it's just an ass kicking. Like we would dominate. We had one game that was crazy. Our guy our kicker had a 51-yard field goal with no time left to move on in the second round. It was crazy.
That's great.
Like, every other game we won by like 35. It was sweet. But like you said, like in high school football, if you didn't like once you become a junior and senior, you like thinking about where you were at as a freshman in high school and when you finish as a senior in college and how much maturity there is, like the stages of going from realizing, okay, I actually need to like put in time to do something when you're in high school. And then when you see people slacking off, it's like, all right, it's like you need to step it up. And then you get into college. If you're not like that, there's no reason to even be there.
Well,
it's crazy.
Like when you're trying to get a goal done, and like whether or not you accomplish that goal is determined by how hard this guy works.
Yeah.
Like there is a level of accountability that comes with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And no, dude, exactly what you're saying. It's the same thing in high school, same thing in college. Like it's what makes it great. Like if it was easy, it'd be what it is.
Well, that's the difference also with high school and college football. Is like high school, you could have a couple dudes where they were dominant. And if they were dominant, your team's going to be fucking good. And on the offense, defense, if you had like 3 or 4 guys on each side.
High school coup.
Yeah, come on. No, we had some fucking – on my team, we had some – our starting running back got injured at my senior year, and he was a freak. And he was out towards ACL. And we had a kid who was a backup quarterback come in and play running back, killed it. Our D end was playing running back who was getting like all the D1 offers. He was dominant. Like we had some dudes, and like you can get away with that in high school. Whereas like Texas is closer to college, where it's like you could have some dudes, but I'm sure it's like it doesn't matter if you have a couple guys. You need a collective unit to be working towards the same goal, or it's not going to work.
And a culture, dude. Like you got
Yeah.
like you can get people so immersed, and it can even happen at the college level, dude. Like guys that just shouldn't be out there, that just are there and they perform at a high level just because they believe they should.
Yeah.
You know, guys that just like are like in any other physical test they would underperform, but they're out there balling because like that's what they do. They're like this is swag.
Yeah. And like that's what's so cool about high school coaches is like they bring that out in kids. Like there's kids that'll come in and won't even know that they had that talent, and like a coach can move into a position and all of a sudden boom, it clicks.
Absolutely.
Like, and like that's the cool part about like having a coach like that, because like for example, I'd say my coach is very similar to like the Iowa way. Like the whole you walked in, if you say anything, it's yes sir, no sir. There's no questions asked. If you didn't say, like, excuse me, and he'd be like, you say yes sir, he'd be like, thank you, and like that was it. That was a way, and like that's just how you learned it. And like I mean, granted, like my parents taught me that when I grew up, and I did that with like other kids' parents. But like when you're talking to a coach, I really wasn't like yes sir until I've had that coach, and he's like, that's how it's gonna be, and then like it just ingrains in your head.
It builds men. Like
it builds character, dude.
So another time, like another example of being opposite ends of the spectrum, but like being like success, right? Like obviously you were at a perennial powerhouse, like y'all won rings. Like my dad was my head coach for a decade. It was like not uncommon. Like when I was growing up, you know, in the field house, like watching, like for a player to come in and talk to my dad and just bawl his eyes out.
Yeah.
Or every player after a game to walk up and hug him.
Yeah.
And just like, dude, whether it's like whether it's the perspective that like, hey, I'm going to teach you discipline and I'm going to set the standard and we're going to hold it every day. Yeah. Or because like that's the standard, or like, I love you so much that I'm not going to allow you to become less than what you can be. Yeah. Either. Like it's two systems that like, and I've almost got to experience both of them in just high school and college.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it's that's
cool because
that's the other cool part about like having like a head coach in high school. Like when you're in college, you are mature enough to know that like coaches are gonna yell at you, bitch at you, and like that's just a part of the game. Like in high school, a lot of kids take it really seriously and like it bums them out. But my coach, for example, like it was one of those guys where like you worked to get his approval. And like once he realized that you were working your ass off to be dedicated to the sport and like you would do anything for the team, it was like when you were I remember I cried when I got on there's a lot of crying stories. I don't know why there's so many crying stories, but I cried when I was a freshman because they called it
baby.
I was a huge baby, still am. Huge. We went to they called it a rodent squad. It was just the scout team. I remember I wanted to quit my freshman year. I was so scared of them. And I told my mom, like I was walking out of practice, I'm like, dude, playoffs are here. I get to go home. I'm done with football. And they called back like 6 people and they're like, you guys are on rodent team for the rest of the playoffs. I got in the car and was bawling. And my mom was like, it's like, what's wrong? I'm like, I have to stay for another like 4 weeks because they're gonna make it to the freaking state championship. I know they are. It's gonna suck. And then like sophomore, they put me on varsity. And then like once he trusts you and respects you, it's like a completely different person. He's like, he went from like being someone I feared to being like someone I respected more than anyone besides like my dad. Like it's wild.
Job means so much. Like for a guy that is the standard of discipline and doesn't always give you pats on the back, for him to be like, hey, that was a great catch. Or like, hey, listen, why aren't all y'all running like Coop? Like all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I made it.
Like holy shit. Yeah. Yeah. It's cool.
High school is the biggest, like for coaches, the biggest thing for the more you put in, the more you're going to get out. Because those coaches who just put their heart and soul into it, like they're like legends in the town. Like everyone loves them. Come back, they want to see their coach. Like they want to go to alumni events, like stuff like that. And players, like we're talking about it right now. Like you just remember those guys the most.
No doubt. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm good.
I was just gonna say, like, you know, a high school coach is playing with the hands he's dealt. First of all, like, you're kind of whoever's in your ISD, whoever's in your school, and like paid millions of dollars. Like they are there, like giving their heart and soul and like sacrificing time, being at home, like for you.
Yeah,
and I think that's why high school coaches can snap when a 16-year-old is respectful because he's like, be here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But on the flip side of it, like when you get like old enough and mature enough to realize the significance of a grown man investing in you at 16 every day.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there's something to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a hell of a job. It's definitely a cool, rewarding job for sure. But yeah, it takes a lot to be a coach, especially for a long time.
Yeah. So talk to me, boys, about the bowl prediction.
Man, I'm hitting the over. I think there's a lot more athleticism in this game than we think.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I have no freaking idea. No
I'm
idea.
rooting for points, so this one's on you, Deuce.
Yeah, seriously. Like, it's gonna be like I know both teams might be slinging it. I mean, I say might with a grain of salt. I have no idea what I was gonna do, especially losing their first two. Like, I don't know. I have no idea what to expect. I've talked to people on the team, and I'm not gonna say anything because I know some inside stuff, but like not like it's gonna give away anything. But like, it's gonna be very interesting, very interesting.
It's gonna be different.
Different.
I remember like the first day, like that this comes out, like I get back on campus and like I walk in the facility and someone's like, "So what do you know about these guys?" Like, well, I actually have a few snaps under my belt against these guys.
Yeah.
I know them too well.
Dude, that's the tough part is like you do know a lot of shit. A lot of shit.
We'll see, dude. It's gonna be a good time. And I like the best part of it is gonna be Higgins was like, he's like, "Hey, we gotta get like a jersey swap after." I'm like, that'd be dope. Like jersey,
awesome. Sick, dude. I mean, shit. It's gonna be what him, like Craig.
Are you talking about guys in my class?
Yeah.
Van Ness.
Yeah.
Ellsbury.
I mean, half the freaking guys are gonna be on the field. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody. Boogie Williams.
Yeah. Bug.
A lot of them.
That's wild. What about you? What are you thinking?
About the bowl game?
Yeah. Oh shit, Forrester. I didn't realize it's 7:20.
No, I'm fine. Well, it's 6:20 here.
Oh, you gotta leave at 6:45.
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
My phone is at 4%, boys. I need to grab
All right, last question for you.
Okay.
What have you learned what was it like with Will Levis? I mean, he's going to be a millionaire in a couple of weeks or a couple of months. What was it like being behind him this year and learning from him?
Man, it was awesome. It was fun to watch. Different than Spence. Spence is like the Cali guy, like biggest personality in the room. Will's from Connecticut, so he's a little more reserved, a little more serious. But dude, like as soon as like you get to like, I mean, it's time, bro. Time builds relationships. So like you get with him, watch a little bit of tape with him, start hanging with him, and Will's the man, dude. Like he's a pro in every aspect. Like the way that he prepares, the way that he makes sure to be presentable every time he goes somewhere. He makes sure to stand up tall. He's a pro, dude, and like that's the man that he is. I would draft, aside from his ability, the best arm I've ever been around, hands down. The dude has a cannon. Like it is the freakiest thing. Oh yeah, it's not even comparable. Yeah, it was awesome, and like, being in my shoes where you're kind of working in and out of the backup role, and you're trying to chase something like. That's a pretty good like dipping stick to be able to test yourself next to every day. Like, hey, if he goes 3 for 4 and 7 on 7, and I go 4 for 4, like, should I be drafted before him? That's the kind of stuff that, to mess with.
Right.
Him. No, really, really great dude, pro in every aspect, and like another big brother figure to me.
Yeah. That's hype.
Definitely. Yeah, it's sweet. All right. Well, we'll let you run, Deuce. Thanks for coming on, man. Good luck in the bowl game and score some points out there.
Appreciate you, boys.
Absolutely, Dusky. Always great to see you, brother.
Yes, sir.